Alright, I'm back. We got ourselves some E9, and this is a brewery out of Tacoma, Washington, so pretty local to me. This is Minivanin IPA. And there's that right there. On the side, it has notes. Double dry hopped IPA, fermented with slightly hazy British ale yeast, aromatics of citrus, peach, and tropical fruit, coming in at 6.7%. So there's that for you. Let's crack it, get a little taste, and then we'll get into the topic of today's video. All right, this one, pretty prominent citrus. It does have a little bit of bitterness to it, which I appreciate. And then, other than that, there might just be the slightest little bit of like pine, but that might just be like the citrus zip. It's kind of hard to tell, but citrus, and then those, it says peach and tropical fruit, but I think that's just coming through as a fruity sweetness. I can't get either one like dead straight obvious, but it's pretty damn good. It's a very tasty IPA. All right, so in today's video, I just had a friend of mine who asked me to learn how to straight razor shave. So I set him up with a straight razor, I set him up with a strop, and now I'm going to try to make a video describing a few of the straight razors, anatomy terms, as well as a simple technique on how to straight razor shave. So that is what we're going to be doing today, and we'll get into that in just a second after I introduce the shave gear. And if this is your first time to my channel, if you come across this because you're trying to learn, or maybe you're trying to brush up or extend your knowledge on straight razor shaving, welcome. I'm DK. DK Damn Fine Shave is the channel, and I hope you find something here that helps you out. All right, today we're using Heritage Hill Shave Company, and this scent is called Washington. And I had to pick it up not only because I love the color red, but because I live in Washington State, and that is enough for me. We got the nice side label here. Here's the ingredients. It is a tallow soap. You can see that ingredient number 1. We also have the name and the company, and then some additional information about the company. This is a $10 jar of soap, and it comes with 3 ounces of shave soap, so very reasonable shave soap indeed. It's quite firm, and I've found you don't need to load heavy to get a good enough lather. Speaking of the lather, we got it right here in the Thirsty Badger shave bowl. I am a bowl latherer, so I have a dedicated bowl for my shaving. And then I have my Wolf Whiskers shaving brush right here with a synthetic knot on top. And there's a look at that handle, just because it's a badass handle and I like showing it off. This is kind of irrelevant, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to throw in just a little bit of menthol crystals in this salt and pepper grinder. I loaded some menthol crystals, and that just gives a little cooling effect to the shave. It's not necessary, it's completely optional, but sometimes you're in the mood for a little bit of menthol chill. It kind of gives like a refreshing feeling, and so I'm just kind of working that in to the lather, and it only takes a second, so there we go. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and wet the face, and then we will get this shave on the road. So, yeah, as I was saying in the beginning of the video, a buddy of mine approached me and he said that he is able to grow his beard out now because his workplace kind of changed their rules on facial hair, and so he's able to grow his beard out. And he said he likes how I am able to line up my beard with the straight edge a little bit easier than he does with his double-edged safety razor. And I'm happy that he's a double-edged safety razor user instead of a cartridge user, but that's a story for another time. And so he wanted to learn how to straight razor shave, and you know me, I jumped all over that. I was like, yes, yes. And he was asking me which razor to buy, completely unaware that, you know, a strop was a thing and a strop was needed. And I said, no, man, just come over to my house. We'll have a beer and we'll talk shaving for a little bit. And I'll hook you up with the razor, and I'll hook you up with the strop, and I'll show you kind of the quick version on what you need to do, and then I'll make a dedicated video for you when I have time. And so this is that dedicated video, but I'm kind of doing it in the same way that I do all of my regular Shave of the Day videos, where I just kind of cover certain products, or I just have a little bit of me time to bullshit and talk with the shaving community about shave community things. Alright, and this lather is absolutely magnificent, has a nice density to it. The scent on it is bold and banging, and all I mean by that is that it has a very nice stout scent strength, and I'm getting a nice little menthol chill, which is also very enjoyable. Alright, before I get started, the scent notes on this one are tobacco bay, jasmine, patchouli, sweet orange, and fir needle. And the sweet orange is definitely apparent. There's a nice citrus that is very, very obvious. I think it's note number 1 for me. And then I think the tobacco bay, the patchouli, kind of give it a warm heart note. And then the fir needle is almost undetectable to me, so it's kind of a bummer, because I think being named Washington and then having a fir needle note would be pretty awesome. But it is what it is. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the straight razor's anatomy. These, on both sides, these white abalone section here, these are called scales. So when you refer to those two pieces right there that are wedged together are called scales. That's the white part. This portion right here in the front and the back is actually called the wedge, the piece that holds the two scales together, and it is held together also by a pin, and you can see there's a pin on both sides. Now, starting with the blade itself, this back part is called the tail. And then this right here, this shank kind of in between, is called the tang. And sometimes there's little divots either on the underside or the top side or both, and those would be called jimps. In this case, it's smooth, so there's no jimps there. Those are just to kind of help with grip. But this one doesn't have any jimps, but if they were there, they'd be located either on the top or bottom. They would call those jimps. Alright, moving on to the meat of the blade. This back part is called the spine of the blade, and then the razor's edge is just called the edge. And if you're thinking of this kind of as a foot, the end of it would be the toe, and the shape of the edge of the end of the blade would be called like the point, and there's different point types. And then if this is the toe, then this back part would be called the heel. And then there's also different things to talk about like the thickness of the grind and what edge it was honed with, what stones and stuff like that. But story for another time. Let's talk a little bit about the shaving process. So let's go from a closed razor. I'm going to be shaving downward on the first pass and then upward on the second pass. And what I'm going to do is just open my razor, and I have it like this. I'm going to put it to where it's open kind of like in this L or maybe inverted L. And then I'm going to get these three fingers. Put 2 on the spine, 1 on the tail, and then thumb underneath. Okay? Let's get a good look at that. And then we're always gonna attempt to stretch the skin when possible, whenever possible. And always approach the face slowly. Put the blade to the skin slowly. So one thing to remember here, I'll start down here actually. I'm trying to do this for video purposes different than I actually do my shave. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the blade flush to the skin and then move it out just a hair. So if you can see here, flush to the skin and then move it out away from the skin just a hair. Just the spine. Move the spine away, keep the edge on the skin. Okay, to the skin, just out, just a hair. And then you want to have slow but sure strokes. One thing is that if you don't have a sure grip, and you don't got to be holding this with a death grip, that's another thing. Just hold it to where it's comfortable but sure in your hands, not loosey-goosey. Definitely have control of it, but it doesn't have to be a death grip. You know, you don't want to be tense. This whole process, you want it to be kind of a smooth, fluid motion. And obviously, you're going to get better with time. You might start out a little bit. You might start out in the beginning where it's not so perfect and fluid, but it's definitely something that you will improve on, so don't beat yourself up too much about it. So there is the cheek. Very, very smooth, always in control. We're going to switch grips here so I can do the neck. Or actually, I'm going to do it different. I'm conflicted of doing it the way that I do it or the way that I'm trying to teach it. So I'm actually going to just go straight to the neck here, get everything out of the way. Approaching the neck very cautiously. I get it in the vicinity of my neck, and then I just slowly start to feel for the skin. If that makes sense. I'm not coming in and just immediately woof and doing a swipe. I'm getting close, keeping that very shallow angle of the spine off of the skin, and just approaching it very cautiously. When the spine touches the skin, then I start to make the passes, the strokes. But I'm doing everything with a sure grip and a very light touch. That's definitely one thing that you want to keep in mind with any razor blade. Even if you were using a cartridge razor, you always want to have a light touch. And all I mean by that is you could apply a lot of pressure to the skin, which would be a terrible idea, or you can have very light pressure where you can hardly even see the skin, dimple. Just very light pressure. This is a razor sharp blade, and it is gonna cut with very, very light pressure. And what I would tell you, just as a learning tool, is to apply less pressure than you think you need. Start out with 0 pressure. And then if the need arises, add it on 1% at a time. Start off with less pressure than you think you need. And you'll be, I know it's gross, but you will be cutting hair in no time. All right, let's switch hands. I'm a two-handed shaver, so my dominant hand is my right hand. I did my right side of my face. Now, with this downward pass, we're going to switch to the left hand, left side of the face, but same grip. Okay, 1 on the tail, 2 on the spine, and thumb underneath. Same grip, just inverted. Stretching the skin, approaching the face slowly, and then try to have sure but fluid movements, okay? Whenever you can. That one right there used a little bit of a J-hook. where I was just rolling my wrist. That is a little bit more advanced. You don't got to do that right from the start if you don't want to. Something like this right here, I don't need to roll my wrist. I'll move my whole arm because it's a straight up and down motion. But I'm doing it very slowly and surely, making sure not to stutter if I can help it. A nice slick lather definitely helps in that regard. Trying not to stutter. Smooth, sure movements. Okay, now I'm going to move from this downward down to the neck. Just get this all out of the way. Find my line. Once the line is defined, I then feel comfortable to take longer strokes there. And if you see, I'm kind of using a blend of wrist rolling, where I'm rolling the wrist in certain areas where I find that more appropriate. And in other areas, I'm moving my whole arm in an up and down motion. Now, this is actually a good thing. I got a little blemish that I took the head off of, and sometimes with a razor blade, you're gonna take the head off of some blemishes. Sometimes you're gonna leave, little cuts where you either applied too much pressure or came in at too wide of an angle, or you came in approaching the skin too fast, and you ended up tagging yourself. These are things that you don't want to beat yourself up on. It's going to happen. It's part of the learning process. Don't beat yourself up on it. All right? So that's pass one. That's what I would consider with the grain of my growth. Now, it's not actually the grain of my growth, but for the video purposes, that's the way we are doing it. And since this video is going to go a little bit long, and I apologize for that, I'm going to add a little bit more water to this lather for pass two, just to make sure it's nice and hydrated and ready to help me get this shave, to help me finish this tutorial in the best possible way. All right, get this nice hydrated lather on the face. And this Heritage Hill is a great product. And the owner, real nice dude. I'm not super familiar with the guy, but the interactions that I've had with him have been pleasant. So, real good stuff there. And you don't really need a big, huge, thick lather on pass two, or really for pass one, but it's just kind of cool when you do have a nice, thick, dense lather. It feels luxurious, but it's not necessary. So don't beat yourself up if you're learning how to lather either. Don't worry about it. Very little is needed to get a good shave. All right, now we're gonna open the razor in this form here, and we're gonna be going from down upward on this against the grain pass. So we're going to do 2 fingers on the tang, but this time the third finger is going to be underneath as opposed to being over. And then again, we have the thumb pinching. All right, stretch the skin. Oop. There we go. If ever you feel a snag, remove all pressure, pull the blade back and away from the skin. You never want to power through a snag on a straight razor shave, okay? Remove all pressure, pull the razor away from the skin, and approach that stroke again, and try to do it more safely the next time. So all I was doing there, putting the razor to the skin very gently, and then straight south to north movements with my whole arm. And then on the side here, I was doing kind of a mix where I was going mostly straight up with the arm, but I was doing just a hair rotation with my straight razor. All right, let's move down to the neck. Get the hair out of the way. Starting from the bottom, approaching lightly. Okay, actually, let me start over because that was actually a bad move right there. When I move to the neck, right hand, left side of the face, okay? We're doing it different here, and different grip as well. Now, we're going to pinch with these two fingers. We're going to grab the tang with these two fingers, pinch, and then I'm going to roll this third one underneath to kind of aid with a little bit of support. Right hand, left side of the face. There we go. Now that's appropriate grip and technique right there. Disregard that first swipe on the neck. That was wrong. Another thing is you don't have to have the full edge in contact with the skin the entire time. You could do, 1/3 or 1/2 of the blade, like you kind of see how the lather is built up on the toe end of the blade. That's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. Sometimes you take strokes where you only are utilizing a portion of the blade instead of the full blade, and that is perfectly fine. Do whatever feels comfortable. Okay, now we're going to move to the right side of the neck using the left side of the hand, or left hand, and we're going to pinch on the tang and then roll that finger underneath, stretching the skin wherever possible, whatever feels right for you. Maybe getting a few strokes in until you feel the resistance of the hairs fade. And then for me, this is something that I only do in this one spot. It feels more comfortable for me to open up into a full blade here, pinch it with these two fingers, and then it just feels more comfortable right here for me to do this. So this is just my own personal technique. This is my dominant hand, and it does feel better for me to do this in this one spot and in the against the grain portion. So that is that right there. All right. Lastly, let's go ahead and take care of this bit right here. We'll go ahead. Feel for the edge of the hair, and then make the stroke that feels appropriate for you, stretching wherever possible. And you'll notice there that wasn't one smooth stroke, and you'll have to do different strokes for different things. Short, choppy strokes are often referred to as buffing strokes. Oh, it looks like I tagged myself with that edge. That's fine. It happens. So if you're doing like short, choppy strokes like this, those are referred to as buffing strokes, and then obviously long strokes are long strokes. So just trying to fit in as much straight razor info as I can into one video. Maybe this is something that should have been broken down into multiple videos, but regardless, even though the video went a little bit longer than I was hoping, I do hope that you guys get something out of this video, even if you have to watch it a couple times as you're going through the motions yourself. Whatever you got to do, just take your time and don't beat yourself up if you make mistakes. That's the most important part. You will often hear the advice from an experienced straight razor shaver to a new straight razor shaver to stick with it for 30 days. But the longer, the better. So if you want this to be your primary mode of shaving, stick to it. Stick to it as long as you can. do it daily, or do it at least every time you shave, use a straight razor. You don't got to do the whole shave with the straight razor, but it is advised to do it as often as possible. Get that muscle memory down, and things will start easing up for you. You'll become more confident with your strokes, and everything will just kind of fall into place as you get more familiar and more confident with the straight razor in hand. All right. Let me go ahead, get this lather off, and we'll close it out. I think I'm going to hit the aftershave off camera, just because this has went about 5 minutes longer than I wanted it to, so. Alright. If you are curious, I'll tag what I'm using in the description of the video. This is Murphy and McNeil's Nantahala, which is a collaboration with Black Mountain Shaving, and it is some real good juice. It's a very nice aftershave right there. Alright guys, I really hope you learned something. Sorry that I kind of waffled through this instruction video, but hopefully it helps. If you have any questions at all, hit me up in the comment section, and I'd love to interact with you and give you any help that I can give. So, cheers guys, I appreciate you, and I'll catch you on the next one.